a 707 horsepower customized Bandit, yes, the Trans Am Bandit Chevrolet Silverado. That is what we're going to talk about today. Okay, Burt Renyolds and Smokey and the Bandit fans, yes, I did do a review a couple months ago on a smaller custom shop who did make their own variation of the 1977 Pontiac Trans Am Bandit that was featured in that popular movie with Burt Reynolds. But the truck I'm talking about today is a totally different truck made by a company called Legendary Concepts out of Texas, and another company which I know you've heard of, Celine Mustang, right? That company out of California. They teamed up to make this truck. But let's just talk quickly about the one I did before to compare to what this truck is, and I think that they really hit the mark with this new version. Now, that being said, the truck I did the video on previously was an awesome looking truck. They did a fantastic job on it, especially being for a smaller shop. But what I did find was they based off a couple things there's a couple things on it that I felt were lacking. Number one, they based it off of what I could see was 2019 or 2020 Chevrolet Silverado custom, not a higher version of the truck. So the interesting thing with that custom was, and the reason I could tell, of course, you have the grille in the front, which of course was custom on this one for a custom, but it had the bar in front. We already know that that is how the custom trucks come, right? The other thing was, if you look in the inside, it has a smaller 7-inch screen versus the 8-inch screen we see in the majority of our mid-trim or above trucks currently. And it used a plastic steering wheel with no audio controls. All those things lend me to believe, obviously, that they used a custom truck for that. Interesting part was, of course, they redid the whole interior, but they didn't put a bigger screen, they didn't change the steering wheel, and they added a sunroof. So that's interesting because you cannot get a custom Silverado with a sunroof, but for whatever reason, they were able to do it in this truck. But that is not what they used for the truck we're going to talk about today. For the truck that they did today, that the company's Legendary Concepts and Celine did, it looks as though they used, to me, an RST trim, because it has the 8-inch color touchscreen in there, and the steering wheel, the black, the black Chevy bow tie, all those things lend itself, other than a Trail Boss. I don't think they'd be using a Trail Boss for a lower truck. So it looks like they're using that. The other thing that the last truck didn't do, or the first truck I did a video on, is it didn't do anything to the engine, and this one did. And as I talked about off the start, 707 horsepower. I'm going to tell you how they got to that and what the torque of this thing is as well, the foot-pound of torque is, as we go along in this video. And basically this idea started in 2016. Legendary Concepts wanted to start building a truck like this. And interestingly enough, before 2018, before Burt Reynolds had passed away, he had actually had the idea of wanting to customize a truck to be a sport truck variation of the 1977 Bandit that he drove in that popular movie, right? And so that is what they did with this truck. And let's start by the looks of it. It is fantastic looking as far as I'm concerned. And here's how they achieve this. Well, first and foremost, of course, they used a wide body kit to give it that aggressive look. You see there's some splitters down in the front as well. They also changed the front grille. And of course, they started with that black color, and you see a lot of that gold bronze trim that's going to be throughout the truck itself. Not to mention we have functional air ducting. We have the twin rear exhaust tips and custom-made one-off 22-inch bespoke wheels, phenomenal looking wheels that really add to this exterior look of the truck. Now, speaking of exterior, one thing I do want to talk about, you may have noticed already, is on that hood. Now, from what I'm seeing, it's clear to see, they did not use the original Fire Chicken hood that we would normally be used to seeing on this. They used their own Burt Reynolds variation, so the B, the R, right, with the wings there, as their own variation on that hood. And down the middle there, that is a Seminole. Yes, that is a throwback to Burt Reynolds' alma mater, FSU, where he actually was a football running back. So kind of a cool throwback. Now, that is one of my complaints on this truck, is I think that they should have used the original logo on the hood. I think that would have looked the coolest, and they could have used that Burt Reynolds logo throughout the truck elsewhere, which they did do, but I think that they could have left that off the hood. Now, maybe they weren't able to from a copyright issue, whatever it may be, trademark issue from GM, from Pontiac, I do not know. But that's kind of one area where I think they kind of missed the mark. I think they should have had that different logo on the hood. But regardless of that, the exterior looks, as I mentioned, and I'm sure you'll agree, look phenomenal. And let's head inside next, because I want to talk about a couple of things on the inside here as well. And actually, before we even get too far about talking about the inside, this truck, by the way, is for sale. Yes, they are selling a limited number of these trucks. Now, so far, I haven't seen any pricing listed on it. They had this truck down at SEMA, at the SEMA show. And by the way, Toyo Tires is involved in this as well. It is using Toyo Tires on this. In fact, they're using the Proxys ST3 tires on this truck. Sorry, I forgot to talk about that when we're talking about the exterior. But the point is, they are making 200 of these, apparently, to sell to anybody who wants to put the money down on one. And of course, as soon as I hear how much they're going to charge for this, I'll try and mention it in one of my future videos. But heading inside, of course, again, they did some great work on the inside. The reason why I wanted to stop before I went inside is because inside you're going to see there is a plaque in the inside that signifies what number of the 200 this is. So that's kind of cool. Leather and suede interior, as you can see, and of course those gold touches are brought in the inside as well. And I just think it has a great look. Now, the only thing I can complain about, and this is no fault of the builders of this truck, would be the fact that how nice and how cool would the interior look if it incorporated the new refreshed bigger screens in the inside. I think that would have just set this truck off to be simply amazing. Now, again, so it's using the current version of the interior, or the 8-inch color touchscreen from what we can see, and the normal DIC, color DIC in front of the driver. But again, it doesn't have the fit and finish interior that we're seeing, or screen-wise, pardon me, digital-wise and technology-wise, that we're seeing going to be coming out in the 2022 refreshed Chevy Silverado and GMC Sierra trucks. But interior side, let's go underneath that hood and talk about, as I mentioned, the 707 horsepower. This is actually based off of the 5.3 liter 8-cylinder motor that we use in our trucks at Yale. Yes, they didn't use a 6.2. Apparently they used a 5.3 liter. It's a GM motor, of course, blueprinted with the MagnaFlow exhaust, as I mentioned before, but it's also utilizing, and this is how they're getting there, the Magnuson DI supercharger, and that is where this horsepower is coming from, because of course it is supercharged, and it also is producing, aside from that 707 horsepower, 641 foot-pound of torque. This lower truck with those big wheels is going to haul the mail. So that is the thing I said on at the start of the video, is that I think they really missed the mark on the original truck, is it didn't have the bigger motor in it. It had everything from a looks perspective, where this has the looks and it has the performance. Interestingly enough, I find funny, we're talking the horsepower. It needs horsepower to be like that 77 Trans Am. That 77 Trans Am, maybe a lot for its time, but it only had 200 horsepower at that time. So I just kind of find it funny that this new truck has 707 horsepower compared to that 200 that the car had in the past. So that is it. Would you put the money down? I mean, we don't know how much, but let's say cost was no issue. Would this be a truck you'd want to drive? I firsthand wasn't even a child that really watched that movie. I was born in 1979. The movie came out in 1977. I know who Burt Renyolds is. I know who that movie is. I don't have an emotional tie like some people older than myself might to the movie, but I still think that I would want to drive this truck around. It is such a cool looking truck, regardless of what it's based off of. Just the black and the gold and the wide body kit just looks so awesome. I'm curious what your opinion is on it. As always, I'll keep bringing videos like this to you, news on the new trucks coming out, details on the trucks we currently have, and custom stuff like this. And anything you'd like to see, I'd love to hear about it. Comment below, and hey, hit that subscribe button while you're at it. As always, everybody, thanks so much for watching. Until next time, take care.